to another episode of the Frosty and Perenni podcast. I'm your host, Derek Frost. With me, as always, co-host and coach, Tony Perenni.
Hey, Derek. Welcome back from the holidays. Ho, ho, ho to everybody out there. I hope everybody had a great holiday season and a happy new year.
And whatever this means, something Auld Lang Syne. So,
Yes.
It's part of the song.
Ditto.
And obviously our producing intern, Vince Gorgonzola.
Who's on mute?
I'm producing back here. You're bothering me. You never introduce me. I always jump in at one random moment. So I gotta come up with some kind of sign on. I'll figure that out. Don't worry.
I'm off guard.
You crushed it this week. Just stick with that.
Just dead silence. That's my sign on. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good break. Your ears have been waiting to hear our velvety, smooth, silky voices. So we can't disappoint today.
Yeah. I have noticed, fellas, our YouTube numbers are not what we thought they were going to be. They're not. It's not great. I think we have voices for radio and faces for radio.
You kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I'm not shocked to hear that.
No.
You know what? 2025 is a new year, though. A new year. Just takes a couple people to catch us. And we get our intern to grab some snippets and throw it out there on the Twitter X machine or something of some good stuff we're saying. Boom. Traffic.
I hear the kids are on TikTok nowadays.
Okay. Yeah. Whatever. That's what we have interns for. I don't even know about
kids. I mean me. I spend a lot of time on TikTok.
Yeah. So does my wife.
Yeah. I send her a lot of TikTok.
Often. Yeah.
Am I getting old? I'm still doing Instagram reels. Like, am I just out of the?
Nah, I mean, Instagram reels are like TikTok, but like 3 weeks later. Dave will send me Instagram reels, and it's just like seeing it.
So you saw Hawk Tua way before everybody else.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw Hawk Tua as it was happening
in real time.
I was almost there.
Okay, got it. Because I'm definitely always behind the trend when it comes to fashion or anything like that. That's how you get the best deals and discounts. You just wait until everything is not trendy anymore and everybody's done it. So
as long as you don't care about being fashionable, it works perfectly.
It goes right along with no video face. So no face for TV.
Vince is threading that needle between just old enough to not be cool anymore, but not yet like retro vintage. Just that like he's rocking the carpenter pants, but not quite the cargos. You know what I'm saying?
The zip offs, the halfways.
Yeah.
I had a pair of those.
I don't doubt you probably had a whole wardrobe full of those. They can be pants or shorts. Right? It's incredible.
I can see you wearing those.
Oh yeah. Especially you got the rollies and you're going down the hallway and you just zip them off mid roll. Can you imagine that?
Did you have Heelys?
No. I had to borrow a friend's because those were too expensive. I didn't get my hands on those.
I've been asking people at work. I just go through people randomly like, "Hey, do you ever get into Heelys?" And they're just like, "No." I'm not talking to an adult that had Heelys as a kid. I'm sure they exist.
Are you just like, yeah, me neither? Yeah. Just walk away.
Yeah, basically. Like, yeah, I never had. Well, so speaking of TikTok, there's this dude who's like, a little overweight, who's rocking a fanny pack and Heelys, looking like real cool, doing funny stuff, like parkour style Heely stuff. And I'm like, man, if it wasn't a clear injury waiting to happen, that would be so much fun to just like show up in a public place and just like, the Office style, like parkour, and then like wheel on out. I'm like, oh man, like I want a pair of Heelys now, but I will bust my ass on them. I know it.
I just picture you sort of rolling up to like the fountain with your Heelys, putting them next to you and just like standing there and stretching for like a half hour first. Limbering up.
But a fanny pack? When did the fanny pack come involved? I mean, I've never seen wheelies in a fanny pack. You're normally like Jinko jeans, you've got.
Yeah. No, this guy, it's a vibe. Like it's this like 90s, like he looks dorky, but it's a cool version of dorky. Like, it's pretty unique.
Did he have a mullet? I assume it had to have been a mullet.
I don't know, but it would make sense for it to be. Like, you have the right mental picture. Yeah.
What pants was he wearing? Were they like track, joggers?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Jorts. Jorts.
Good old jorts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's awesome, and it really makes you want a pair of Heelys, or like Razor scooter vibes too, like right in that ballpark. Yeah. Oh, the other thing was, did you ever have the shoes that had the like the carve outs in the arch where you could like grind rails?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Did you have those?
No, I always wanted them. The same thing with the Heelys. Like, I always wanted them. I just never got them. And by the way, we can still buy Heelys. They're only $50 from DSW. So
they're coming back. Yeah,
they're in. And these are not boys. These are men's Heelys, by the way.
Yeah.
The Pro 20s. I don't know if you keep up with the model number, but
I think they stopped after the Pro 12s, and they've just now picked back up.
I think so. They just like skipped a few.
Yeah.
But did you ever see the Heelys that had that grind arch in the Heely shoe? So you can ride down and then jump onto the rail, and then jump off the rail, get back on the Heelys.
That's so cool.
That was next level.
I was not skater enough for any of this stuff growing up.
I was a definition of poser. I really wanted to be.
You were kind of a wannabe skater. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I absolutely did. My cousin took me to a skate park once, and I'm not even shitting you, I had a Looney Tunes skateboard that I got as a little kid. I'm probably like 13. Yeah, effectively it's a Toon Squad, minus the jerseys. And I was trying to pull off that, like, it would be cool to have this like Looney Tunes skateboard with the same energy as the dude rocking Heelys and a fanny pack. But the problem was I was 13, so like it wasn't cool. It just looked like I was a kid. I was afraid to drop into a half pipe or any type of ramp. I didn't know how to do any tricks at all. I pretty much just rode the skateboard. And I only went once, and that was it.
Yeah, you were made for like neighborhoods, not like skate parks. Like, yeah. I'm gonna wheel around this cul-de-sac real quick. Everybody's gonna see how cool I am.
Yeah, we call that street skating, Tony.
Nobody calls it that.
Yeah, boy, I wanted to be a skateboarder so bad. I mean, Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I even I would have taken snowboarding, but instead I got into skiing, which is the lame version of it. Yeah, I missed the boat on being cool.
My sister wanted me to be a skater, so she made me a poser. She bought me a ball chain necklace, the fat one, and it was like a choker almost. I had the chain wallet with the skull and crossbone, cross on it. It was hanging all the way down to my knees. I had, the Jinko jeans, and I did the half pipe once. And I remember I tried like 3 times, and of course, no helmet, because that's not cool.
Yeah.
And the one time that I thought I was actually going to get to the bottom and keep going up, and the skateboard just shot out of the entire half pipe and went across the entire skate park, and my head just smacked back. I landed on the chain wallet. I'm like, yep, I think that's it. Same thing, one and done.
Yeah. My skateboarding career lasted about 2 minutes. Is me stepping on one, trying to go, and all of a sudden it flips out from under my feet. My feet go up in the air, and I land flat on my back. That was it. I never tried it again.
I think Dave got to a point. I know he could ollie. He might have been able to kick flip.
Dave seems like a skater.
I think he may have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a skater, snowboarder. I mean, he was about that life.
Yeah.
He almost has that Californian draw, where it's a little more relaxed, a little loosey goosey, and I can definitely see that. He's so cool and calm and collected. You need that when you're dropping into a half pipe and you know that you're about to bust your ass. You need to have that.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah. Well, Dave was the reason that I didn't get into snowboarding, because so we were in the ski club at Austintown Middle School. I had started in the 5th grade skiing. He started 6th grade snowboarding. And my thing was like, so you go every week for, I don't know, 6 weeks, and you part of like ski club, but you had to do like the lessons. So it was like an hour lesson, and then you would like go up the colors. So there was, light green, dark green, light blue, dark blue, black diamond, right? So, and then like that's what hills you could go on. So my thing was like, I want to get to black diamond skiing, and then I'm going to flip to snowboarding. So 6th grade year, Dave starts snowboarding, and we're basically like always hanging out because I was a little bit better on skis than he was on snowboard, but we were pretty close. And then like by the end of that year, I think I had my black diamond in skiing, and he was like dark blue, maybe black in snowboarding. But I was like going into 7th grade now, and I was like, well, I don't want to go all the way back to the bunny hill on the snowboard. So like I just stayed skiing, but it was all because like, I want to keep hanging out with Dave. I should have switched to snowboarding. I tried switching to snowboarding like a few years ago, and boy, those falls hurt way worse at 30 than they did at 13.
Everything hurts way worse at 30.
So
getting out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stretching for a coffee cup in the cabinet.
In an effort to combat the pain of falling. So I went one time to Peak and Peak, and it was like I was early snowboarding, but they had a long bunny hill, and I was like, that's gonna be cool. So I end up like similar to you guys' skateboard stories, like it just flies out from under me. I smack my head off the ground. Like I might have got a concussion. I don't know. I was real dizzy for a while. And that pretty much ended my day. And I was like, I should wear a helmet. So I got a helmet, and I had knee pads, and I had these like shorts that were all padded, not quite hockey pants, but pretty close. But it like was so many layers and so much padding that was like, it was like from Christmas Story. Like when I fell, I couldn't get back up because I didn't have like enough like mobility.
You're Randy.
So the one time, yeah, I'm Randy. So the one time I'm like in the snow. I'd already fallen a bunch of times. I'm tired. I'm old. I'm hurting. And I was just like kind of laying in the snow, just kind of face down for a second, just feeling the cool of the snow on my face. And this kid, I don't know, 10 years old, comes up and he's like, "Sir, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm good. I fell. Do you need me to get help?" No, I'm good. And that was the last time I snowboarded, and I always went back to skiing. And yeah, it was embarrassing.
So you're knocked out on the bunny hill, and a little 10-year-old comes up and says, I think you need some help for that.
Yeah, it was a real rock bottom moment for me.
I thought you were going to say you combated the pain of falling with just like, I went and I got a, old fashioned and just old fashioned after old fashioned and go down the slopes.
I just got in my car and went home.
From Peak and Peak. It's like an 8-hour drive, right?
No, Peak and Peak's not that far, actually. It's like 2.5. But
Okay.
no, the Peak and Peak was when I got almost a concussion. The little kid thing, I can't remember if that was Alpine up like in the Chesterland area.
Okay.
Brandywine. Brandywine. Yeah. But well, yeah, I used to work in Chardon, and so like a couple friends and I would just like run up to Alpine after work, like one day a week. We had season passes and stuff. It was fun.
Just remember, if you pizza when you're supposed to French fry, you're gonna have a bad time.
Wise words right there.
In an effort to be cooler on skis, I got snow blades, which if you haven't seen snow blades, they're like miniature skis, and they're like, I don't know, a third of the size of regular skis, but they're like a lot more maneuverable. And they were cool in like, they were cool in 2003, but in like 2024, 2025, nobody knows what they are. They're just like old school. And so like I've had people come to me like, "What are those?" I'm like, "They're snow blades, duh." And it's like, "What do you do on them?" I'm like, "You don't feel as much of a loser." That's about it. I mean, they're not as fast as skis. You can't do as much. You don't have poles. So you just try harder. But you can do spins faster.
It's awful.
It's fun. It's fine. Anyways, if anybody wants to gift me a pair of Heelys, I'll wear them. Take cool videos and put them on TikTok.
What's your shoe size?
10.5, 11.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure I documented that so I can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
In the mail, right, with more Christmas cards for Vince.
Everyone that I opened up, or everyone I saw, I get to the one side and I don't know who it's from yet, and I'm just thinking, God damn it, this one's Tony's, Nope, somebody else's. Yeah.
You finally got there, right?
I did.
We have some more.
So after we recorded, I was going to send you one and I never mailed it. It's still in the envelope on my counter.
Yeah. I bet it's coming someday though. Just
probably not.
Probably
just wait till the perfect time to put that in the mailbox.
Piss me off all year.
Just March, April.
It's May 5th. What the hell? I could in my own get a Christmas card. Oh man. Fun thing that happened recently. The first round of the college football playoffs, we were lucky enough to have hosted very close in Columbus, Ohio. Now, when the tickets first came on sale, they were very expensive, like in the $300 range. And I was like, part of me wanted to go, right? Like, I don't like Ohio State. I like Tennessee because the Groovers went to Tennessee. I don't really feel strongly about Tennessee otherwise, but like, I've never seen an Ohio State game in Ohio Stadium, which it's a cool venue. Like, take out my lack of fandom. Like, it's a cool thing to do. Never seen a game in Ohio Stadium. First year of the playoffs would be super awesome. So like, I kind of wanted to go. Tickets were super expensive. I'm not going to spend $300 for a team I don't care about. But then I kept watching. And I kept watching. And I kept watching. And the prices just kept dropping. Until the Thursday before the game, when they were about between 100 and 130 a ticket for like the upper level. So I text Steve. I'm like, hey man, do you have tickets? Because if he didn't, like if Melissa was working or something, I was like, we should get tickets. We should go. He's like, well, I'm already going. Melissa and I got tickets. He said the seats right in front of us are open. Oh man. So I look, they're like $130 before fees. So I pulled the trigger, and Joe Reedy, former commissioner, and I made the trip down to Columbus. We didn't stay in a hotel or anything, so it was going to be a down and back trip. Went to the Groover house. They were already out tailgating by the time we got there. Took a nice picture in front of their Christmas tree. It was a very nice moment. I actually left my old lift pass that was in my ski jacket in their cupboard as a nice little souvenir for them for later. And made our way down to the tailgate. I imagine, I don't know, maybe most people on this podcast that are listening to this have been to an Ohio State game. But for my first one, that was one of the top, probably 3 coolest sports things I've ever done. Have you guys been to an Ohio State game?
I have not.
Oh,
no, I have not. That's one of the few. Well, I don't want to say few, but even in my travels as a coach, never played at Ohio State. I've been to Ohio Stadium to take a couple pictures and stuff like that, but yeah, never been inside.
I've had 2 experiences. One when I went just as I was like 16, I think, and then one when I was in Bowling Green because we played them and we got to march in the Ohio State Stadium. So I got to do the whole cool. The skull session beforehand and then go march into the stadium. It was really, it's amazing. And then you go back to Bowling Green and then you do that session. You're like, okay.
Yeah. That's why we don't have any fans on Saturdays.
That was the loudest environment I've ever been in. And I would say, I think they said on the broadcast, and people have told me since, but I guessed it at about 40% Tennessee fans, give or take. Tennessee had a real nice contingent there. And it sounded like a lot of Ohio State fans after the Michigan loss were kind of giving up on the team. And I'm sure they're all back on the bandwagon now. But at the time, they were, pretty much thinking they were gonna lose. So there were a lot of Tennessee fans, but even still, that game was real lopsided, and I don't think the Groovers had a great time. But nobody sat the whole game. Nobody sat. And one of the things with Ohio Stadium is that it's all bleachers, and they are very narrow seats. And I'm not a narrow guy, and neither is Joe, and neither were the people next to me. So I stood most of the game like this, sideways. It was not comfortable, and it was very cold. 20 degrees. The wind chill was down, I think, in single digits or low teens. It was brisk, but I got to see the dot of the I. One thing that was surprising, Hang On Sloopy was not very loud. You could not hear it.
Really?
Yeah.
That is surprising. That'd be extremely loud.
Yeah.
It's probably because the air is so cold that it doesn't travel as far. Maybe.
I expected like a high school environment where like you could really hear the band. I figured they would have microphones in front of them, and pump the sound in a little bit. But
they didn't hire me as producer. That's the problem.
That's probably it.
Yeah, they got to spend 20 minutes messing with their microphone ahead of time, and then and let it rip.
Yeah. I was a little bit surprised by that, but they did. I mean, the drone show, I don't know what they showed for folks who watched from home, but YouTube that was super cool. All the drones up in the air doing all the different designs and stuff. But yeah, a lot of the chants and that. I mean, obviously the OHIOs. That's the place that it should exist. So that was. It was a really cool environment. Unfortunately, Tennessee got curb stomped. The good news of that was Joe and I got to leave early and then made it back home like 3 a.m. by the time we finally got back to the Groovers, got changed, and then made our way back. Yeah, I think I pulled in the driveway around 3 a.m. But like I said, I mean, that's a top 3 coolest thing I've ever done in sports. That was, amazing. Now, I looked before I pulled the trigger on the tickets. I was like, hey, if Ohio State's 100, 130, I wonder what Notre Dame is. They were still $500 a ticket. So I was like, all right, to Columbus we go.
Yeah. So how would you compare the Ohio State game to the Browns game a week later?
Yeah. So my wife won tickets at a golf outing to get club seats for a Browns game, and we ended up choosing the Browns-Dolphins game. Oh boy, we could have been at the Browns-Steelers game, the Thursday night game. We chose not to do that one. In hindsight, that was a mistake. The Browns game, the club seats were great. The padded seat was a very nice upgrade from the bleacher that I never sat in at Ohio Stadium. The good news with the Browns game was you really got to enjoy that seat because there was never a moment to stand or celebrate. What a shit product they put on that field.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about tanking on this pod, and the whole thing of like the coaches and players are not tanking, but boy, trotting DTR out there as a quarterback, meaningless game or not, like, oh my God, it's so bad. It was so bad. And like, you're trying to get excited. Like the Dolphins didn't play well either. So like the game was kind of close, but like it was so hard to watch.
Yeah. I mean, the last 3 games, they were definitely intentional. And that's a big reason why they ended up benching Winston. It wasn't just the interceptions. It was that, if this guy gets hot, he can win these games, and we're trying to get a better draft pick. I'm assuming they have their eyes on a quarterback is kind of my thoughts. Otherwise, I don't know why they would care so much to get as high. I mean, obviously, the more ammo, the better. But if you're reading the quarterback market as this is trash, and you're probably not going to be able to get much in a trade up anyway, to me, they probably have their sights set on somebody. And it might be Drew Aller from Penn State, who has already said he's going back to school, but keeps looking pretty good in these playoffs here. So I don't want to jump ahead, Derek, to the Browns discussion, because that'll be a big one. But going back to, I guess, just thoughts around the playoffs. And now we've had 2 weeks now. So we've had 2 weeks to look at this product and see through. I mean, I made it pretty clear just in the first couple episodes we were talking about this. I'm not a huge Buckeye fan at this point anymore. I, still kind of root for them, but I'm not fanatical. But have to admit, by the time that game kicked off around 8 o'clock that night, I was pretty much back to being a card-carrying member of the Buckeye Army because I was just so sick of hearing the SEC people from the South whine and complain about not being in. And it was just so satisfying to watch an SEC team come up and just get absolutely dog-walked, worse than any of the other teams did.
Yeah.
I took a lot of pleasure. And then those teams that were barking that they should have been in, Alabama loses in their bowl game
to Michigan, and that was the big thing. Was like Ohio State lost to a bad Michigan team, and then Alabama loses. It's like, oh, perfect.
Yeah, and South Carolina goes and loses to Illinois. Ole Miss was the only one who actually held up their end of the bargain. So it's just it was so great to just shut them up because that noise got so much lower after that because it was predictable too. I mean, you had the Friday night game with Indiana where I wouldn't say they got blown out. The game was always in control by Notre Dame, but they didn't get blown out. And just the amount of whining from them. And then the next day with SMU, which was predictable, which SMU was really, they would have been in the game if the quarterback would have just stopped throwing the ball to the other team. Channeling his inner Winston. And then eventually it got out of hand. But before that, it wasn't too bad. But it was just like, it was so predictable. And then you have Kirk Herbstreit jumping on board of all this too, which is like, whose side are you on here, dude? Right. You went to a Big Ten school, and he's over here saying like Indiana shouldn't have been in. Like Indiana lost one game in the Big Ten, and you're penalizing them for a schedule they have nothing to do with. They crushed Michigan and Washington, who were the two teams in the championship game last year. It's not their fault those two teams had bad seasons.
Right, absolutely.
It's just. Some of the banter around the first week was, I would say, pretty predictable. But I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I think you're letting teams go out there and prove it on the field. Then I think the next week, really anxious to hear your opinion on those ones because I think those kind of became a self-proclaimed prophecy from what we were talking through before of every single bye team lost. All four of them. And I'd argue strongly that if those teams had been playing at their host sites, at least two of them probably win, maybe three. And I don't think Oregon gets absolutely smacked in their own place the way they did at the Rose Bowl either. Like I'm not going to say they're going to beat Ohio State the way they're playing right now, but that game's probably way more competitive. So like Arizona State probably beating Texas, so that game's in Tempe. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to have seen Penn State go to the blue turf in Boise and watch that game rather than that sterile environment it was in. Because Boise was right there with them the whole game. Obviously, the final score made it look worse than it was. And then Notre Dame and Georgia. I mean, Georgia, even with their backup quarterback, that game's in Athens. That's a slugfest. Mm-hmm. So it's just like I think you can very clearly see two big areas they need to fix for next year with the seeding issue. And also, I think that second round, because right now you're almost punishing the bye teams. They're going 3 weeks without playing, which is not helping them. I mean, what do you do in those 3 weeks? 1 week off is good. Yeah. Get fresh, but two more on top of that is got a little overkill. You're just going to get rust. And then they don't even get to play in front of their own fans.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if you fast forward this through 3 years, do we see a trend with this? Because I don't think, we talked about it and all that, but I don't think anybody could have sat here and predicted that not one conference champion would win, and that's wild to me. And I'm starting to hear a lot this week, people kind of longing for the days of the BCS a little bit of saying like, this should have been Oregon and Georgia. And it's like, really? Ooh. Like you're seeing this and you're saying we have the wrong teams here. Like, I think, in Ohio State, They're the best team in football right now.
Yeah, the way they're playing right now,
Yeah,
they're tough to beat.
They dropped a bad game to Michigan. They lost to Oregon, who was unbeaten until last week. Like that's man, like that. Sports are built on getting hot at the right time. And we celebrate it everywhere else. This is, we celebrate the fact that the Giants were able to beat the undefeated Patriots because they got hot. They were a wild card team that gets hot at the end. March Madness is what it's all built on. So I like it. I like the fact that like everybody's in it and that everybody has a chance. But I'm with you. I think reseeding would be great. I don't know what you do with this bye week situation. But the conference championships automatic.
How far away do you think we are from the 16 team is the question. Because when do they decide these buys really aren't working out anyway? And rather just have the other 4 teams in and just run it. Because at the end of the day, I can sit here and clown the SEC all I want. Would I have rather seen what I've liked to have seen, like an Alabama or a Miami or some of those bubble teams in there just for pure entertainment's sake that first week? Sure.
Yeah.
Like, why can't Oregon play Miami in Eugene and I get to see Cam Ward go into Austin Stadium? Like that would have been awesome. So I think they're going to get the 16 pretty quickly here. I've always been an advocate of 16 because all the other levels of football have done it for forever.
Forever, yeah.
Like I don't know why it was something we wouldn't do.
I could never understand the argument of like, we don't know how we would do it. It's like, look everywhere else. I mean, like Pee Wee football can figure out how to do a 16 team playoff, like figure it out.
Yeah. And it's just like, they were so, they were just slaves to like the TV money and the sponsorship stuff is always like it was revolving around, but nobody would ever make the argument that you're going to make more money with a playoff product that people are going to be glued to, meaningful games. Yes. And, any of these, nobody cares about the Peach Bowl.
No. Don't you make more money if you have more games? Like, no matter what, right? You can that's why we push the NFL's pushing for more regular season games to make more money. That's simply it.
Yeah, more games and then better attendance for those games. I mean, you look at all these other bowl games that still exist for some reason that I'm not quite sure of, and like they're playing to 80% empty stadiums. I mean, it was happening when I was coaching. Yeah, I mean, we would go to a bowl game. It was don't get me wrong, it was great for the team and for the players, and like anytime as a college athlete, especially if you're a senior, that you get to line up and play with your brothers one more time. That's a big deal. Like you're going to take that all day. But as a fan perspective, me sitting at home over the holidays, do I want to watch this game that really is, half the star players are going to be sitting out, or now half the star players for some of these lower level schools have already transferred someplace else because they don't delay the transfer portal until after the season, which is mind-boggling to me. Yeah. so to that point, Penn State. Look at Penn State right now. Their backup quarterback, Bo Pribula, has already transferred and gone to Missouri. He's out of the playoffs. He had to leave his team during the playoffs and go transfer to his new school because the transfer portal opened. Drew Aller could change his mind all of a sudden and go to the NFL, and Penn State's without a quarterback for next year because their backup had already transferred. I mean, it's like the Wild West out there with the transfer portal right now.
Yeah. Which I'm fine with the transfer portal, but I agree. Like, let's open this up after the season.
Yeah. I would like to see them do something where it's like you get one transfer without having to sit out a year.
So
you do it multiple times from there.
I struggle with that because the coaches can do whatever they want. And like, if and Tony, I mean, you've forgotten more than I will ever know about all this, but like, if I'm a player and I've vibed with the coach, right, and that's historically how players pick schools was based on like the program and all of that, and then my coach quits, gets fired, transfers somewhere else my freshman year, and like I have an opportunity to follow them. I want to be able to do that. And then if they get fired after that year and they bring in somebody who isn't going to use my skill set, I should be able to move. Like if the coaches can move, and I know there's contracts and all that stuff, but if they can be hired and fired on a whim, I should be able to leave on a whim, I guess is my feeling about it.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it's just anytime they are leaving, there's buyouts and stuff involved and things like that, where things that just don't exist in the NIL world right now. At least it's not, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't. Yeah. Maybe it's. I think it eventually will get there. I hope, where at least some of these boosters and sponsors and things are going to cover themselves and like, okay, we're going to give you $1.5 million here, but if you leave after 1 year, you owe us X amount back. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they don't just format those like that. Anyway,
I think it's the future of it, right? Like basically these guys will have contracts. Yeah,
I think so. I think because you basically create a scenario that doesn't even exist in the NFL. Like players in the NFL have contracts, usually multi-years, unless you're a fringe player, then you can play on the 1 year thing, but you're not getting paid like crazy if you're doing 1 year, 1 year, 1 year.
Right.
So it's like, it's created this scenario that's not even realistic when you go to the next level.
Sure.
And it's making team building possible. I mean, you look at Nick Saban left, coach I used to work with in Bowling Green, Dave Clawson, just retired a couple weeks ago. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're Wake Forest. It's an academic school. Any good players you get are going to get poached every single year. It just makes program building impossible for a school like that anymore. And that's kind of what it's turned into now. So I'm not against the transfer portal when people leave, and I just wish they'd put a little more controls around it, so it can't just be. And I think the piece would be if the sponsors and stuff would just put conditions on their contracts that they're giving out to these kids, and hopefully it gets to that point at sometime. It's just some of these big time schools like the Texases, the Ohio States, the Alabamas. These sponsors don't care. They just want the national title. It's like they're bloodthirsty. Like they don't care if they pay you $2 million and you leave the next year. If you win them a championship and they can gloat with their buddies for the next 12 months, they're cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's I don't know. We're in a weird spot with all of this because it's new and like we're trying to cling to the old way and without knowing really what the future is. Like, why do we still give a shit about bowl games in general? Not even like the Pop-Tarts Bowl, whatever. I'm fine with all that. I think these guys.
I'm not going to take any blasphemy for the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Well, first off,
I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl. No, I love it. But like, why are we still so beholden to the Sugar Bowl and the Peach Bowl and the Orange Bowl and like these things that, like you said, it's ruining what could be a better playoff environment because we've always had this bowl game. Like, come on, like we got to move past this.
And it looks ridiculous as they go through each level of these playoffs. And at the end of every game, they have like a championship ceremony because they won the fill in the blank bowl. It's like you're Rose Bowl champions, but you haven't actually won anything yet. But we're still going to shower you with confetti and do the whole thing. It's like, this is weird.
Yeah, it's awkward.
Yeah, I wish they would just go to. The home team's host up until the championship game, and then the championship game you play at the Rose Bowl. The granddaddy of them all.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And honestly, leave it New Year's Day. We fix all this transfer portal crap, and just it ends on New Year's Day.
Well, that too. Yeah, it goes way too long. They're going into like January 20th. Like you're going into NFL playoff territory now, and people really don't give a shit at that point. Like, it was always better when you wrapped it up close to New Year's for college football because people kind of reserve New Year's Day for college football. Make the championship game New Year's Day. I completely agree. You don't need to have all these extra weeks off between the conference championship games and the start of this. Like just roll it. Yeah. Also on the Rose Bowl note, why is it like when you watch the game at the Rose Bowl, it's like you just left Kansas and entered Oz? Like the colors are just it's like in 5K.
What they do out in Pasadena, Vince told us about that.
It's a wild world out there.
This is back in Kansas now. You don't get colors like that anymore.
Right. It's actually all the LSD that they're doing. That's with Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah. That smog really does something out there. I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but Notre Dame's still in it.
That's big time.
It is. We actually have a very aesthetically pleasing Final Four there with Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State. It's a pretty crisp, clean looking group there from a uniform aesthetics perspective. Have to say,
no gimmicks over here.
No. Yeah. I'm anxious for Penn State, Notre Dame. I think that's going to be a slugfest. I think those are two pretty similar teams, and I would love that game to be at a host site. That game would be at Notre Dame, right? Are they ranked higher, or it was Penn? No, Penn State was.
Penn 6
State was.
Yeah.
Okay.
One spot higher.
That would be in Happy Valley.
Yeah.
And
which would have been awesome
in a whiteout. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, selfishly, let's throw that game in Miami. But no, it would have been better for everybody if that was played at a Happy Valley or Notre Dame Stadium, whatever. Yeah. But no, man, of the three other teams in it, I'd rather face Penn State. I think. Especially without a backup quarterback.
Texas looks shaky. I don't know. Their offense did not look good against Arizona State. And I don't know if it was just I think some of it was play calling. Just didn't look like they had a real good, crisp game plan. And the Sun Devils were really working them up front. Kind of like once they decided to just start chucking the ball around, it's helped them a little bit. I think they're going to be in a world of hurt the way the Ohio State defense is playing right now. I mean, they're fast, physical. And that offense kind of looks like it's kind of stuck in neutral right now. It's going to be a big wake-up call going from Arizona State to Ohio State the way they're running right now. Yeah,
that wake-up call is going to come about 2 minutes into the first quarter. And Ohio State's just going to look in the rearview mirror the rest of the way through. Yeah. My only hope, I think it's very realistic for an Ohio State Notre Dame national championship.
I do too. I mean, that should be sponsored by the Frosty and Prenny podcast.
Yeah,
we should be on site for that game.
Cigars. Boys, let's do it.
And I don't like it because I don't think anybody's beating Ohio State. If they keep playing like they did the last 2 weeks, I don't think anybody's beating them.
This having people tell you how bad you suck for 3 weeks before you get to play again really it helps.
Yeah, it does.
and then Tennessee fans come with a plan of how they're going to rip your goalpost down and a map for how they're going to put it in the river. Like, guys, come to the game, but just relax.
Yeah.
These are 5-star guys you're playing against. This isn't Chattanooga.
Yeah. I mean, it would have taken us a while to get all the way down to the field, but I probably would have helped. Yeah.
For the story.
I knew the map. All right, let's switch gears. Let's go to the Browns. So the Browns have decided that the problem was Ken Dorsey and the offensive line coach, and they are no longer employed by the Cleveland Browns. Now, I don't know enough about the offensive line coach. He probably, whatever. Ken Dorsey, we've talked about it, offense coordinator, wasn't really doing what needed to be done. And really, I mean, talked about Kevin Stefanski probably should have been calling the plays this year. Would have been a little bit better. But I don't think that's the biggest news that came out of the last couple of weeks. Seems that they have a star problem over at the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson, injury. He's taken a setback in his rehab with the Achilles injury, as well as a restructured deal. Now, I read the report on the restructured deal. I understood all the words in that. Not a clue when you put the words together what that meant. I think it did something with the salary cap, added voided years or something like that. I don't know. Tony, were you able to make heads or tails of that?
Yeah. Let me help. So what they did is they restructured the contract and added some void years to the back end of it, which basically stretches the dollars out further from a cap perspective. It's merely a salary cap exercise. It does not pay him any more money. He's getting the same amount of money regardless. Doesn't change a thing. What it does is by stretching that out further, it lessens the dead cap hit if they cut him after this next season. So if you cut him right now, all of a sudden all that extra money that's due from a cap perspective hits you, and you really can't do anything with the roster. By continuing to restructure and push it out into future years when you're expecting that the salary cap's going to continue to go up. So yes, that dead cap number can keep floating up and getting bigger, but also the cap's growing with it. So as a percent of your cap, it's really not hurting you. Okay. But what it does is it gives them the ability to, after this 2025 season, they can cut him with a post-June 1st designation, and the dead cap that you carry into 26 and 27 becomes very manageable. It's like $20-30 million, not like $60-80 million like it would be now. So that's really why they did it. And then allow me to negotiate the coach speak for the setback.
Thank you.
Deshaun Watson's not coming back here, guys. It's over.
Hot take.
Which we should all be happy about, based off what we've seen this past season. And what this is actually telling us, the combination of these two things tells you that Deshaun Watson knows he's done in Cleveland too, and also wants to be done in Cleveland. I mean, this feels like it's a mutual thing. That was not only just like a feeling we had before, but now we kind of have it, designated in front of us. The words from Andrew Berry at his press conference was Deshaun Watson notified us that he had a setback in his recovery. So it wasn't a team initiated thing, but I think this was a matter of, these two parties are coming together and saying, hey, this isn't working out. But the Browns have done everything right by Deshaun Watson over the last 3 years. He can't have any qualms about how he's been handled here. He's been given every opportunity. He's been, they've helped him with the PR side. They've held up their end of the bargain. So I think this is a matter of, them coming together. He had to green light that restructure for that to happen. Yeah. So that wasn't something they could do without his permission. So he did. So that allows them to cut him after next season. He can spend the next, 12 months getting healthy for 2026 once he's released to try and go to another team. Will another team pick him up? I have serious doubts whether they will, given what he's put on the field and the combination of the PR issues. I think his career's done.
That was my takeaway. Was this is the unofficial retirement of Deshaun Watson?
Yes. So the overarching theme is, though, Deshaun Watson will not be back next year. He's going to be sitting on the physically unable to perform list and not in the building, which is exactly where he should be. Because when you listen to the reports of things coming out, I mean, I think the other big story, Derek, I'll lead off with it. Myles Garrett, a couple of weeks ago, was itching for an opportunity to talk. You could tell, because it didn't take a very big probing question for him to launch into when he did. But he mentioned, I want to win. I like to stay in Cleveland, but at the end of the day, I want to win, and I want to hear from management what their plan is moving forward to stay here. And I'm so glad he did that, because he's really the only guy on the roster who has the clout and has the leverage to play that card. And I'm glad he finally did, which is basically, stop horsing around with my career. I'm in my prime. A lot of our guys here are in their prime. We got to get this fixed. What's the plan going to be? And to me, it was a direct message to, not only the Deshaun Watson, which I don't know if it was a personal attack on Watson, but it was definitely an attack on the front office.
It wasn't not a personal attack.
It was not. It was not. I mean, but I think it was very much a shot at the front office for meddling. I mean, that was like, he basically put it all on blast. And then after this season, the offensive line spoke the last couple of days, and they basically said, this entire offensive line was built for a wide zone scheme that we don't run anymore. I mean, I would like to see us go back to something like that. They didn't hold back when Ken Dorsey was fired. So it's just, very apparent that everybody there, they have Stefanski's back. You can tell. I mean, there is no issues with Stefanski, but they can tell that he's been meddled with. That people above him are telling him who he's going to put on his staff, and they know that that this Ken Dorsey thing and this Andy Dickerson, an offensive line coach, was put in place strictly to get the best out of Deshaun Watson, not worrying about what anybody else in the offense is doing. It basically, Ken Dorsey was, to me, the offense version of what Joe Woods was on defense, where it's like, I have my scheme, I'm going to run it. It doesn't matter that I'm not going to do it to any of these guys' tricks.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay man cover corners $20 million a year and make them drop and cover 3 all games.
Which I understand the thought of, we just put a giant investment into Deshaun Watson. Let's try to put a scheme around him that can get the most out of him. You're not anticipating the injury issues. You're not anticipating that he's going to show up and look like he did. Yeah. Right. So I understand that, but I'm glad we're moving on from it. And, you know, we as Browns fans, of course, we celebrate Joe Thomas, but like to some extent, I got to imagine some of his inner circles, like, man, you were a schmuck to stay there the whole time and never have a real chance to win. And I think Myles Garrett looks at something like that and he's like, I don't want to be Joe Thomas. I don't want to be on these winless teams and, like, you know, just giving everything I have and having nothing from a team's perspective to show for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the local media actually interviewed Joe Thomas on that exact subject after Myles Garrett did it. And he was like, yeah, you know what? It's different for an offensive lineman than it is for like an edge rusher, where it's like your legacy is tied to, you know, winning. And, you know, you think about the whole time he's been here. Have we been a team that races out in front of teams and actually like lets Myles Garrett pin his ears back and go after somebody with a 2 touchdown lead ever? Like, you know how many sacks he would have if he got to do that? Like Dwight Freeney used to do back in the day when Peyton Manning used to jump on teams from the get go. It's like staying in a situation like that actually hurts his abilities to capitalize on future investment. Now, I think it sounds like over the last like week that what he's heard from the team seems to be helping. I mean, it sounds like they're talking extension now. And he's going to be the highest paid defensive player ever. And, you know, Andrew Berry came right out and he's like, I want to draw a straight line from Cleveland to Canton for him. I don't want him going anywhere. I mean, they're making sure he stays here, because that to me was, you know, if he came to you and gave a trade request and you had to trade him away in order to get a bunch of assets to go hunt your quarterback to get back from this Deshaun Watson thing, you have to fire everybody at that stage. That's failure. You failed. It's over. Yeah. The experiment's done. It just cost you a Hall of Fame player who is the only thing you have for going 0-16 and 1-31 and going through the Sashi Wars and all that bullshit.
Oh my God. DePodesta.
DePodesta, who somehow is still here. He's like America's second most favorite groundhog. Comes out once a year. And people are like, we got to fire DePodesta. Like, does anybody actually know what he does? Like, I don't. Is what he's doing fireable? I don't know.
He's been promoted to an oblivion. He just exists.
Yeah, pretty much.
We just like paying people.
Yeah. So it's great news to me that Myles Garrett needs to be talked back on. And to me, this offseason, like, I want it to be boring and predictable. Honestly, I want just go get Kirk Cousins, go get Clint Kubiak to be your offensive coordinator, who's Kevin Stefanski's boy and runs the same offense as him. Just go back to that. And if you want to draft a QB at 2, do it. If you don't think there's a QB worth doing it, just take the best player in the draft. Yeah. Take the best, or if you get a mountain of picks for somebody who does want to come up, then do it. But just don't do anything crazy. You don't need to do anything crazy. I think the roster to me is in much better shape than people think it is. And if they get good quarterback play, you're going to see it. Well,
that's the thing. Like, defensively, they're good, right? Like, they're pretty well set. You're a couple places away offensively. You got to do something for Chubb. I mean, he's getting injury prone. Maybe we're at the end of his prime.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be back next year. Hurts. He's a free agent, so we'll see. I would like to see him come back.
I would too. I'm not going to be broken up if he doesn't. From an injury. I mean, Nick Chubb, the guy, is fantastic for Cleveland. I mean, he seems like just an absolute great person.
To me, even Nick Chubb, the player, didn't look bad coming back. There were no holes. It was not a scheme he was used to running to. And guys coming back from ACL tears the first year after always struggle. And I think comparing him to other people who've done it, he looked better.
Yeah. It's just he's injury prone at this point. Like every season.
He's almost 30.
Yeah. He's at the end.
Yeah. But to me, it's like his value's got to be super low. You can get him an assemblated contract. I think he wants to be here. Just give him a 1-year deal. If he ends up, getting hurt week 2 and sitting out the rest of the year again, then you have your answer. But bring him back, draft somebody to go with him. I think Jerome Ford's starting to show some things.
Yeah.
You can teach that guy to pass block too and pass protect. He can actually be on the field for a good portion of the game. But he's not a stiff, and this is a stupid good running back class. I mean, you're going to find starters going into the 4th, 5th round this year. So draft yourself 1-2, bring back Chubb, and can he play the Kareem Hunt role of 10 carries a game and a couple catches and all of a sudden he's your goal line back, and why not?
Love it.
Now, who do you say is to blame for this whole Watson ordeal? Is it the Haslams that are like trying to say, okay, we wanted this to work and they kept pushing it, or was it Andrew Berry, or was it a little bit of both, or DePodesta?
That's a great question, and one we're probably never going to know the answer to until like a book comes out like 20 years from now. But I still believe it was driven by Barry and probably DePodesta. Barry and DePodesta would be my guess. I think they pretty easily got Stefanski on board with it because I know Baker was frustrating him at that point. Baker was frustrating everybody at that point. It's the revisionist history nobody wants to talk about, but they were not over the moon about bringing him back, especially paying him what they would need to pay him to bring him back. He's got a $40 million a year contract. At that time, you never could trust him with $40 million a year. The way he was behaving back then, he had to hit rock bottom. But I think it was those guys. And it seems like they're just taking it collectively on the chin. I mean, they're just saying, hey, it was on all of us, and it's on all of us to fix it now. Which, okay, that's a grown-up decision by the Haslams. That's actually a mature decision. I still struggle. To me, the whoever decided, and I think we already have our answers because nothing changed, but whoever told Stefanski that he had to fire his entire offensive staff and bring in this Frankenstein of an offensive staff, piecemealing together all these different pieces that never fit, that person should not be here anymore. And I'm pretty sure that was DePodesta and the Haslams trying to force this Deshaun Watson thing. And I think they know they screwed it up. One thing I'll give Jimmy Haslam, he has plenty of faults. He does seem to learn from his mistakes. He usually needs to colossally fuck it up first. But he does seem to be somebody who kind of is self-aware and learns as he goes and makes changes. I'm hoping this is a big learning experience for him. You trust these guys. They're going on year 6. Barry and Stefanski, which have been unheard of in the past for a Browns coaching staff. Yeah. Empower them, give them room. I have serious doubts about Andrew Berry. We've talked about that already, but give them runway without jumping in their way, and let's see what they can do. If they screw it up, they screw it up. But I think Stefanski's earned the right to pick his own staff. I mean, it's
year 2-time coach of the year.
Went to the playoffs with 4 different quarterbacks, injury riddled team, 11 wins. It's like, empower the guy, let him do it. The team wants to go back him. The players want to back him. I really hope he's learned from it, and maybe this battle with the city over the stadium will distract him enough that he won't have the energy to go put his foot where it doesn't belong.
We can hope.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the stadium move?
I personally don't like it going to Brook Park.
Okay.
But I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, the city of Cleveland has it's trying to not get too political with. I mean, for our listeners out there, I mean, the city of Cleveland is basically they're exercising this Modell clause that they put in place when the team left before, which is basically saying if the team leaves the city, new owners have to put the team for sale and find a local owner or look for a local owner for at least 6 months before they can potentially do that. There's some other clauses in there too. So basically, they're trying to make the Haslam's sell the team, which a lot of people in the area would be over the moon. But the city is 100% in the wrong here.
Yes.
The Haslam's and the Browns have fulfilled their lease. They've done everything that they're supposed to do. They've used their own money to fix up the stadium, which they don't own, but they've done that over the last 20 years when it's been needed to be done. And they even gave, when the city asked them to give them an extra 60 days to kind of go through and go over their own communication, their own damage control when they were initially talking about going to Brook Park, they did it. They worked hand in hand, and for them to come back around now and slap this on them, I mean, they're going to war.
Yeah.
And they're not even moving out of Cleveland. Like, let's be honest.
Right. They're coming across from the airport. Like, come on.
Yeah.
One of the things, so when we went to the game last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, obviously it's already like pretty much sounds like a done deal that they're going.
Yeah.
And we got there early because we had parking passes like right behind the stadium. So between the stadium and the lake, there's that parking lot. But they close all these roads. So you have to get there super early to even be allowed back there to park in the space that you paid for, which is its own nightmare.
Yep.
and really dumb. But we basically got there 3 hours early, and we wanted to go eat somewhere because you can't get in the stadium yet. It's raining, and there's nowhere to eat within a half mile of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Like things like that. Like we have all this like industrial area, like the port, like they never built up that area. I mean, you have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all that stuff. But even like the Mooney lot, like it's so far away.
Right.
Like that area is not a good area for fans. So you're going to move it to Brook Park, where they already are talking about building up this whole area around it that's going to have restaurants and hotels and all this like really cool stuff to create a better game day experience. Like, the city of Cleveland wants to bitch now. Like, you didn't do anything. You had the stadium for 25 years and you did nothing.
Yeah.
I feel the exact. Oh, go ahead.
It's going to be 30 years by the time the lease is done. They've had it there and they've done nothing with it.
Yeah.
And I thought the NFL draft coming a couple of years ago kind of showed them the potential of what that lakefront had. And even that didn't even kickstart them. Even it was late in the ballgame at that point.
Yeah.
But that didn't even get them going.
Yeah. And when we went to the game, Tony, we left the stadium and we're like, we still want to get one more drink. Let's go get a bite to eat. We had to walk. We went down to the flats, right? I mean,
we had to walk all the way down the flats.
We had to cross a barrier, go under a bridge, and it was.
It's a lot when you've had a lot of drinks.
Tony was holding me by the shirt saying, come on, Vince, you can do this. You can do this.
As opposed to go, across the city where you have, Rocket Mortgage Field House and Progressive Field, and there's, East 4th, and there's, all this really cool, like these really cool areas to hang out in with restaurants and good, a lot better parking and all this stuff. And it's like, we never got there. And like and then we can be in a dome.
Yeah.
Like more concerts, more everything. Like,
it's a no-brainer for the Haslam's.
Yeah.
And they can go to this place. They can have their own parking lot. They can make parking income that they can't get right now. It's a no-brainer if you're them. And the city has completely dropped the ball on this. I mean, you had it's a bad location for a game because of the city, because the city has done nothing around it. Right. I mean, there's no reason it should be it's a great picturesque spot for a football stadium.
Yeah.
You get the aerial views every time they play at, what do they call it now, Huntington Bank Field. Every time they see it, it's like, oh man, that looks awesome right there on the lakefront and everything. But there's nothing around it. It's just undeveloped land.
No, from almost all of it, you can't even see the lake.
Yeah.
Everything around it, you can't see the lake.
No. And like I said, try not to get too political, but for Mayor Bibb to play this card when there are so many bigger issues in the city of Cleveland, that's not going to play well with his constituents either. Like, picking a fight with the Haslams here over this is petty at best. It's him trying to show the city that he's making an attempt to keep him there, even though he's not actually doing it. Which,
to some extent, you have to. Like, if you're decision makers and a team is going to move out of the city limits, like, you got to do something. So you can't just be like, "Yep, that's a great idea. You should go to Brook Park." Yeah. But that's a big one to invoke, and I don't know.
They hasn't already purchased the land. I mean, it's going to happen. Yes, it's how long it takes them to go through this red tape. Hopefully, it doesn't delay things to the point where they're going to have to go play in Columbus for a year or something at the end after 2028 because they couldn't get the thing started on time. They got a lot to build. I mean, they got to build up everything down there. It's not just the stadium; it's the whole complex. It looks super impressive in the renderings, but they should get started like soon.
Right.
Or they could come play at Youngstown State Stadium. I'm sure that holds a lot of people.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
I've played there. Great stadium. I don't remember playing there, but I've been there.
I remember watching you play there.
That's good. That's more than I got.
It's like a concussion number 1 or 2 or 3.
That was the biggest one. I don't know what number it was. But
I think they took Tony's helmet. I don't think he's coming back.
They did. I was asking people at halftime what the score was and where my locker was, and they took my helmet away pretty fast after that.
Yeah, that was a good call.
Probably. Watch your tape the next day. I was playing a hell of a game.
Yeah, you're doing good, right up until
Yeah.
So what are they going to do with the Brown Stadium? What are they going to do with that land and that area?
Make it a parking lot because that's all they ever do down there.
Mm-hmm. That's part of the fight right now. Is the city wants the Haslams to pay for the demolition of the stadium. So they're saying that's going to be, hundreds of millions of dollars to demolish that, which I think for the most part the Haslams are willing to do. It's just they're still fighting them on all this other stuff right now. But to Derek's point, it is going to become a parking lot.
Good.
I keep hearing rumors that they're going to close Burke Airport and do what with it. They have this idea of this really cool downtown area, but I mean, you didn't do it when you had the stadium. You're not going to do it now that there's not much of a draw. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame isn't enough of a draw to build that area up.
No. And I do think they are trying to close Burke, but that's not a fast process to close an airport. I mean, that takes 10 years, I believe. So it wasn't going to save the Browns if that was what their goal was to, get them to re-up their lease for 5 years. That stadium sucks. Let's be honest. I've been to other pro stadiums. You go to the one in Pittsburgh. I don't hate to compare us to Pittsburgh, but that one is significantly better. I mean, they put together a skeleton of the stadium as fast as they could to get football back in Cleveland on time in '99. And it was never, up to snuff with some of the better ones out there. And its location right there on the lake with all the wind and everything, it's getting more weathered than most others out there too. So, they're not going to sign up to stay in that building for any longer than what their lease entails.
You can go to Indianapolis and go inside and see that enormous, what do you want to call it? The entrance. It's 10 stories tall, and you've got this giant horse you can see, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I would love to get down to the AT&T Stadium in Dallas at some point.
I've been there. I did the tour.
Okay,
it was unbelievable.
Yeah, that looks impressive.
Super cool.
Scary world.
Yeah,
but what about the Charger Stadium, the LA Stadium?
That looks awesome.
Yeah,
those look awesome. Yeah, it's a shame they play in front of 12 fans for Chargers games. that ring scoreboard looks incredible.
And the pool. Yeah. There's a pool there.
Oh, is there?
There's people hanging out in the pool, and I'm always like, well, we're gonna watch the shot here with the camera. What are we gonna see? You know, and just like, let's wait. Cut to the next camera.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for the new state. I mean, it's a little further away for me, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Vince, we Uber to most games, so it's going to be a much further Uber for us. So I would assume we'll probably still get our one game a year in, but
exactly,
we'll be paying a little more for it.
Yeah, but the Uber to the airport, I mean, it's, I think, more accessible. There's going to be more rides going on, and it's not going to be so painstaking to try to get back, especially if we go to like a night game. Can you imagine trying to get back from Cleveland, downtown Cleveland, in a night game?
Oh, it'd be terrible. We'd have to take off work the next day and just pull up at a bar that they created on the fly out there.
Which I'm willing to do. I really am.
Yeah, no, I'm not against it. As I say, it actually sounds awesome.
Yeah. There's a hotel right here. You know, we're going to tell the wives we're going to just stay there. It's just safer that way.
All right, fellas, I think we wrap it up. On behalf of Vince, Tony, Dave, who couldn't show up, I'm Derek. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.